not only in this universe are they together enough for them to go to that event, but also has a much more bad diet, you know, and,
right? She's got high cholesterol. Hey, Internet! It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. We're here talking about What If, Season 1, Episode 4. What if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? Spoiler alert, he becomes the Tin Man and hangs out in Oz. Okay. So we open with Doctor Strange on the night of his car wreck. But in this reality, Christine is in the car with him. And instead of the car that crashes, but instead of like ruining his hands, she dies. That's how we open this. That starts off the chain of events. We end with Doctor Strange destroying that entire timeline in an attempt to bring Christine back. But he creates this protective shell around himself and Christine. She dissolves anyway, leaving him alone in this big purple gem drifting into space. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Legion, Jermaine Clement's ice dwelling in the astral plane.
Sure, yeah.
But anyway, so that said, that's your beginning and end. Paul, before we launch into more stuff, what did you think of this episode, good sir?
I liked it primarily because of the story itself, even though I have questions about how it applies to everything else, you know. Whether or not it was a true alternate. The story almost implied there was no other way it could turn out. And
right, but
I think if you actually asked him, you know, would you like it better this way, where you just sort of messed your hands up?
I think he'd be
I think he would have said, "Yeah, that'd be good.
Yes, I'll do that." Right, there's this.
So why that should be an immutable, aspect of time, I'm unclear on.
Right. We're told that this is an absolute point in time. But we know for a fact that in another reality, it's not. She's not in the car. She survives. She is not blown up in a building or whatever. She's fine. And so
there are other reasons why he becomes the Sorcerer Supreme. Other things. I mean, maybe if they hadn't posed it in that way, like, oh, it has to be because you have to do this. And it's like, well, there are other ways for him to do that.
Right. Like, it occurred to me, he could pull like a Rick and Morty thing where, you know, there's a plot line where Rick and Morty, we did terrible stuff. They go and inhabit a universe where their selves just died. And so they bury their other selves in the backyard and then just take over those lives because everything else is exactly the same. So here he could be like, well, why don't I find a universe where I screwed up my hands, or maybe one that I died but everything else was the same and Christine lived, and I'll just jump into that and be like, hey. But no, he apparently doesn't have that power.
No, I wasn't killed. Isn't that good news?
Yeah. But yeah, so obviously this has, there's like that Groundhog Day plot line when Bill Murray's trying to save the homeless man over and over again, and he can't do it. Anakin Skywalker. Look, I need to say, I had this prophecy that Padme is going to be in trouble, so I need to be more powerful to save her, and then become something unrecognizable because of that. You got the Star Trek enemy within kind of thing, right? Where you split your cell.
Oh, right.
Also a little bit of, I'm not that familiar with the movie series, but Final Destination is like the idea of like, we avoided dying in this thing, but now we die in terrible other ways. Which is, that was the weird part of this. I mean, there were a lot of weird parts, but the fact that Christine, like, look at this. I saved you from dying in the car. Great. Problem solved. Nope. Yeah. No. Building blows up. She's dead.
Yep.
Oh, let's go eat some pizza.
Attack.
The heart attack is the oddest one, right? So somehow they get to the party without the car crashing, and then she's like, and she starts to die. You're like, wait a minute. Did she have like a latent heart attack waiting to come on? Like, no matter what happened? Like, who cares if she got shot in the head at the pizza place? Yeah. She was going to have a heart attack.
So not only in this universe are they together enough for them to go to that event. But also, has a much more bad diet. You know, and,
right. She's got high cholesterol.
Or one of her parents has a congenital heart
defect,
disease passed on to her or something.
But that's a great point. Is that they in this world they are close enough that she comes to the party and they obviously have a really good relationship. In the reality we're aware of, at that point, I mean they're flirting. But they're not. She doesn't go with him. For instance, he gets in the car. And he's by himself.
Yeah, I rewatched it the other day, and I realized now that we did see a scene where he invited her to that event. Initially, I thought that didn't play, but that event that he was there, he invited her to. He did invite her in the original, but. They had broken up. She's like, "Oh, I'm not going to be involved,"
that's
and so they had broken up.
They broken up. Okay.
Yeah.
So, because part of it is that version of Strange, he's so self-involved, he probably can't be in like a fully loving relationship.
I actually would have liked if they could have sacrificed some of the killing of magical beings. And included a section.
They had two montages in this. One was her dying of a heart attack, and then the other was the magical being consumption. Yeah. So you're saying get rid of a little bit of that and put what in it.
And even some of her dying, they could have got rid of too.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we get it. I would have liked keeping of that rather than just assuming, okay, well, no, they're together here. It's like, at the point where him actually, convincing her to go is like. Take another chance on me. Keeping that aspect of the relationship, right, that was established, where it was sort of the selfish nature of him caused them to break up. And so if he could have convinced her to go, and then they could say, like, oh, that was the thing, although, then it makes it hinge on that moment. But I would have liked to have seen, a little bit of that other relationship that is her difficulty with him, and then I could have raised the stakes in terms of we were getting back together, and and then it went bad. One of the options they had was he just stood her up, and then she still died.
Still died. So it's not like it's weird because it's an odd version of a what if. Like it's not. Oh, that car wreck did the thing. It doesn't matter. The car is completely incidental. It doesn't matter. It's just saying, in a world where she dies on that day, no matter what.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? Where it's like the other aspect of it is the Watcher, Uatu, coming in and saying, oh, I could warn him. Like, really, you could have? What? It's not like, do you know the dangers that you're,
By the way, I feel like my salt licorice bet is fairly safe. Seeing as how the Watcher's already tempted to interfere. He's like, but I shouldn't. All right.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah, I liked how Steven was like, what? Who's out there?
Yeah, like he's consumed so many garden gnomes that he can now hear him. Like what? Yeah. Then they have this conversation at the end, and basically, it comes to a choice. We know that the Watcher could now. Like, it's not that he just can't. He's like, nah, I'm a being that only watch. He's like, no, but I'm not, because it would cause all kinds of problems in the multiverse, so sorry, bye. Yeah. By the way, real fast, so this protective gem that Strange creates around himself, possibly a power stone in a particular universe or something? It's like a purple gem. I was thinking like, hey, look, it's the power stone. I don't know, but could the power stone be a thing with a little mini Doctor Strange in it? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it was Vishanti they were talking about. I don't know about it being a
that's a stretch. It's a stretch. Yeah.
I just feel,
We also do see that, I mean, he's in, there's a lot of different trailers that have evil Doctor Strange hanging out with various cast members. So we've got, anyway, he might even be in multiple episodes coming up. Who knows? But he's coming back, it looks like.
Yes, he's definitely coming back at least for one episode, but perhaps two.
Seems like he keeps going back in time, trying to fix it. It doesn't work. He, goes back, tries again. But it seems like all of his attempts are reliant on the fact that he survived. Like, he's in these violent car crashes. I mean, they're pretty bad. Like, what if he had just died in there, or he's unable to use his magic and he just sits in a I don't know, in a hospital bed for the rest of his life. Anyway, but he doesn't. He somehow manages to figure out a way to, like, I can cast my spell after I fail in this attempt. Something else that's kind of funny, so Wong, we've seen in the trailer for Spider-Man.
Right.
Wong gives him the little warning, hey, don't you go casting that spell.
Yeah.
Here he's the same thing. Don't you go messing with time. And he leaves. Like, he always says this thing, like, warning, and then leaves. Like, maybe stay. Maybe stay to make sure he doesn't do the thing you just told him not to do. But anyway, so he's of course obsessed. Got to get Christine back, and so he gets in a fight with the Ancient One. And he ends up going to find Cagliostro, the Library of Cagliostro.
Yes.
He finds Cagliostro's librarian, who insists that he's not Cagliostro, but he's using a name, one of Cagliostro's assumed names from the comics. So there's an implication that actually is Cagliostro. Anyway, learns, hey, there is a way to break an absolute point in time, but it requires an enormous amount of power. So you got to go start absorbing creatures. So he starts by trying to absorb, apparently, the same creature from Captain Carter.
Right.
This big, if it's Shumagorath, whatever it is, giant squid tentacle thing.
Sure.
Can't do it. Oh boy, I almost got killed on that one. So he has to start small. That's why he starts with Garden Gnome. Which reminds me a little segue here, but similar idea. My buddy Theron and I, we do a lot of online games, role-playing type games. So we're playing this one, and we're like first level character. You basically get touched wrong and you die. So there's the game basically has a very early obstacle, which is this bear in the woods, and you walk up, and no matter what we did, the bear killed us over and over. Keep trying it. We were like using the Eye of Akamoto. Go back, try again, dead. Try again, dead. So we figured out the only way we could get past this bear was to level up, find a way to get to second level. And so we killed everything in the area. Like, the entire woodlands are destroyed except for this bear. We did every possible quest we could, still weren't there. We're still like just south of second level. So as our final last desperate act, we go back into this little town, and we walk into this guy's barnyard and start killing his chickens. And we killed chickens for like 5 minutes, and we're like, oh, we leveled up! And then we went and beat the bear. It was just, this is the idea that, like, well, I got to kill these chickens if I'm going to kill that bear. All right, got it. Very similar here. I got to eat the garden gnome if I'm going to be able to change time. So,
is that some unknown bit of training? Something they cut out of Rocky or something?
Yeah, right.
Chasing and
He's
killing
chasing the chicken, but he didn't kill it.
And he's like, I don't know, I could take on a bear.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm ready. So he starts with his garden gnome, but then he's consuming. They look pretty demonic looking creatures.
Sure, yeah.
He's got these big ram horns and these giant evil looking things. He takes in a dragon at one point. So he consumes some prey, and then he goes back and he gets the squid creature, cuts off its legs, and consumes this squid creature.
Yes.
So in so doing, he's obviously no longer really himself, right? I mean, he's Dr. Faustusing his way into, I can now do stuff, but now I'm not me anymore.
And really, why, the Ancient One waiting until that point? Maybe I should talk to Stephen Strange here. If he had just seen him at the beginning of his quest, maybe the good Stephen would have stood a chance. It's like
So we do find out that the Ancient One had a backup plan, kind of, which was, I'm going to split you in two. And so, I don't know that there was the evil and the good at one point. It kind of turns out that way. But anyway, there's two Stephen Stranges. One of them goes and consumes garden gnomes, and the other one's like, you know what? I'm going to listen to Wong. Even though he walked out of the room, I'm going to be like, you know what? You're right. I'm not going to do the time. And so you got these two, but the problem is they both exist in the same reality. This is where I was a little confused. Is reality breaking down because the Ancient One made two Stephen Stranges?
No.
Or is reality breaking down
Oh.
because evil Doctor Strange is like meddling too much? I guess that's what's happening. Is he's
I mean,
meddling?
yeah, I presume that. I mean, if you don't trust the Ancient One, like, oh, she hadn't split him up. I mean, he subsumes him. So, if that was the problem, then why isn't that the solution?
Yeah, good point.
So,
good point. Yep.
him trying to
You're right.
change
They come back
everything is
together
what
and
she's
it's still
telling
not
him.
bad.
Yeah.
Great point. So she separated them with the intention that maybe if evil Strange, or maybe more like when evil Strange gets too evil, I'll send good Strange after him. And
I wonder if what her thing was. Well, maybe let's get killed.
yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like she probably knew what was coming and was like, well, this is the way it works. All right. Well, he'll end up in a gem. So you're right. She waits so long to make them fight that by the time they fight, evil Doctor Strange is way more powerful. He's subsumed all of these demonic entities now. So they have a pretty cool fight scene. It's a neat little wizard's duel. I always like wizard's duels. I'm good with those.
Oh, okay.
And so yeah, they have a cool visual spectacle. Inevitably, evil Doctor Strange wins and consumes himself.
Yes.
Metaphorically.
Yes.
And literally. And so we also get this callback to the fact that the event that originally Doctor Strange was going to in the car with Christine was this award ceremony because he had done this hemispherectomy, which is where you divide the brain in half. And so basically that's exactly what Ancient One did.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
I will do a hemispherectomy on Doctor Strange. So it has this really downer ending.
Yeah.
Where the good guy loses, the universe is destroyed. There's a really, kind of a powerful moment there where Christine doesn't even recognize him anymore, right? He's got so many of these creatures in him, and she's like, "Oh God, what are you?"
Yes.
And he's lost at that point.
Yes.
And also, to the show's credit, almost maybe all of the voices were the actual actors. I mean, the rate of the number of actual actors who came to voice their characters is pretty high in this particular episode. Maybe the highest of any of the four so far.
Well, I mean, that particular story doesn't include, a number of people who their storylines don't include that many other characters, I'll say.
I got you. But they still got, you got Benedict Cumberbatch, you got Rachel
McAdams,
yeah. You got
Christine
Tilda
Palmer,
Swinton.
you got Christine Everhart.
Right.
People.
She came in to do the news thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I saw the credits at the end, and I was like, wait a minute, was she in it? And I had to go to find her doing the news thing. It's like, wow, that's nice of her.
I was trying to think of like other stories that have this idea of, giving up everything for the love of your life kind of thing. And it reminded me of, there's a Neil Gaiman short story called The Wedding Present. I read it out loud the first time. I would read stories to Jackie early in our relationship, and then in the kind of the big profound moment of this story, I was so moved that I kind of just like blurted out like, "I love you." It was the first time I'd said it. Anyway, thankfully she responded. She didn't was like, "Oh, that's nice. Keep reading."
It wasn't. Didn't cause some confusion. Like, oh, that's a weird thing for that character to say.
Yeah, exactly. What is that in the story? I don't get that. In short, basically the story is there's two Gordon and Belinda. They get married on their wedding day. They get a mysterious letter that's describing their wedding day. Like, oh, that's nice. Over time, the letter, there's more to it, and it's describing a version of their marriage that is terrible.
Uh-oh.
Like, so in other words, their life is pretty good, but the life in this letter is bad, and like, and there's betrayal and health problems, and like it's just like whoa. And the implication is that this letter is keeping the bad relationship away. They're like, oh look, as long as we have this thing, we're in good shape. Well, in the good world, Gordon dies, and so Belinda, left alone, is left with this letter, and she is debating whether or not to destroy it. And the line is, Belinda stared into the fire for some time, thinking about what she had in her life and what she had given up, and whether it would be worse to love someone who was no longer there or not to love someone who was. And that, so anyway, it was just like that powerful scene that she ends up destroying the letter. So she accepts the reality where he's alive, but she hates him because that's preferable to the one where he's dead. Anyway, but that's that sense of changing reality for this other person, I think is somehow relevant here.
Considering the context you placed it in, with you telling it to your wife, your now wife, I thought it was somehow going to be some Lord of the Rings story.
Oh,
you let me read Lord of the Rings to you?
Yeah,
I love you.
Right. Well, no, that is right. And then afterward, Boromir comes forward and he decides, look, I'll take the ring. Anyways, but then they get married. I enjoyed this little parable. It's kind of like a little warning. Don't mess with time, even if you have the best of intentions. And so we've got this Doctor Strange who has kind of done all the wrong things, but acquired an immense amount of power and regrets it. Right. Hanging out in a limbo. So they'll take that character and then put him into another what if storyline. Is what it seems like it's doing.
It does seem like it. Yeah.
Oh, I like the capes fighting each other. That was fun.
Oh,
in the Wizards duel, like gotta have your backup cape.
Yes,
sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interestingly, Paul has actually already gone to see Shang-Chi. I'm going to see it tomorrow. For both of us, this was our first watching a movie in a movie theater experience since the pandemic. So roughly 2 years, a year and a half. So we're going to talk about not only Shang-Chi next week, but also what it was like to be back in a movie theater. So I look forward to that. No spoilers here, but Paul, just generally, Shang-Chi? All right, very good. We will talk more on that, much more, next week. Thanks, everybody, and we'll be back for What If, Episode 5. Bye.